Welcome back everyone to another One Piece card game video. My name is Manga Nerd, and today we're going to be finishing off our coverage on the OP02 set Paramount War, which is set to come out on March 10th. Today we'll be going over the black color, which is the new color set for the card game. It's all about cost manipulation for cards that are on your opponent's side of the field, where you can reduce cost and then KO certain cost characters. So it's a little bit like purple in that regard, but you're able to bring characters down to the KO limit for the cost. So you can turn a 10 cost into a 4 and then have a card that KOs 4 or lesses. It's a very interesting mechanic that's going to be changing up how decks are going to be made, I feel, for just in general, because you never know if you're going to be playing against a black deck or anything like that. So you have to be prepared, and you're going to need to make some changes and ways to work around beating out a black deck if you can. So let's go ahead and hop over here to the Japanese website, where they have a list of all of the cards. Today we're going to be going over all of the new cards for the OP02, as well as all of the new cards for the new starter deck that is set to come out on the exact same day. So there's a total of 6 event cards, 1 stage card, 2 leaders, and 2 secret rares, and then the rest are just characters in any regard. So we're not going to go over red black Garp or purple black Zephyr, because we've already covered those in another video. So we're going to jump into the first leader, or the first card, where it is Smoker. He is a 5 life, 5,000 power, special attribute Navy type. His effect is Dawn ×1, activate main once per turn. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. Then, if there's a character with a cost of 0, this character gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. So this effect is really strong. It doesn't cost. You have to attach 1 Dawn to the leader, which you're already probably going to be doing that anyways, because if you're going up against a Whitebeard, then you need at least 6,000 on your leader to swing at his. And then you just activate the main, to where then you reduce someone by 1. If there's a searcher on the field, you can reduce that 1 cost searcher to a 0. Then you gain an extra plus 1,000, so then he's a 7k. Attaching 1 Dawn to him isn't that hard for Dawn management. You can just always, think of it, you have 9 Dawn. Like if you're playing a Zoro, the Zoro leader from the first set, and you kind of only have 9 Dawn in your deck. So I feel like this is a pretty strong ability. There's also could be times where there is a very dangerous character on your opponent's side of the field that you need to bring down to a cost so you can KO him. And if some way or another you're not able to bring him down enough, or you just miss it by 1, then you use this leader effect, bring him down by the 1. Then now he has 7, so you have a 7k leader, and then you can play a card and KO that big body on the side of the field, or whatever dangerous card it is on the side of the field. And then you've built board, you've gotten rid of someone on their side, and then now you have a 7k leader that can swing. He does also have parallel, which all leaders do. Then we're going to get into the character cards. First one we have is Asuka. She's a 3/4 1k counter slasher. Her effect is Dawn ×1 once per turn. When this character battles and KOs your opponent's character, set this character's active. So it's a cheaper Hawkins that is more specific, where the character has to KO. So she becomes a 5 for her effect. This only happens once also. So she becomes a 5 for her effect. So, a general, whatever. She's also, you're probably going to you can make her a 7. It's not a bad idea. You can make her a 7. Swing with the 7 to where they either have to counter out with 2 cards in their hand, or they activate a blocker, then that blocker dies, and then she gets to restand, and then you can either attack again with 7, or then just save it for next turn, because they're probably going to put another blocker down. So I feel like this is a really strong card. Not too strong, but in that range where it's just a restand abilities are inherently stronger than other abilities. Next we have Onigumo. He's a 5/6 1k counter slasher. Navy. Most of these are going to be Navy, so I might just not even keep repeating that. His effect is, if there's a character with a cost of 0, this character gains Banish. So this is a fairly strong effect. Same thing with the leader Smoker. You can target a searcher that most people aren't going to swing with. Like a Bonnie you're going to want to get rid of, but a Nami that only has an on-play search effect in like a red deck, you can just make her 0 every single time. Then your Smoker gets the buff, and then this guy gains Banish. Then we have our first SR here is Kuzan. He's a 4/5 special attribute, no counter. He has an on-play where he draws 1 card, and he has a when attacking effect where you give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So he can swing for lead, reduce the cost of someone by 4, bringing them down to 0. Then your Onigumo gains Banish. It is a good card, mainly because it's on-play draw card. And then also just the -4, you can start, if you have 2 of these guys on the field, and you can bring a 8 cost down to a 0 cost and then KO. First thing on top of my mind is the 8 cost kid, the brick wall, the 8/8 brick wall, where you can't hit anyone else besides him. Bring him down to 0, play a card, KO to 0. Now he does get a parallel version, just, Ice Age. I think this is probably Ice Age when it looks like there's a wave up there that's freezing. So then we have Komili, a 1/3 1k counter slasher vanilla, Navy card. Just a vanilla. They gotta have some 1/3s. Then there's Kobe. He's a 3/4 1k counter striker, Navy type. His effect on play, you trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So just from looking at the cards we've seen, you play Kuzan, you get to draw a card. Now you're up 1 card. Next turn, you attack with Kuzan, reduce someone, depending on what you want to do. If you want to bring a 7 down to a 3, you can. And then play this Kobe, where you trash a card, then you're back down to normal hand size, or average hand size. Then you get to KO that 7 cost character for free. Then you have a 4k body on the field. Or attack with Kuzan, make someone 0, and then your 6k character has Banish. Then we have our next SR, which is Sakazuki. He's a 6/7, so that's really big. Special attribute, Navy type, on play. His effect is on play. You may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Another good card that combos with the other SR, Kuzan, where he gets you a card in hand, so then you're up 1, and the next turn you can play this guy. You do lose a card, but then you can KO a 5 or less, so you can bring a 9 down to a 5 and play this guy, and then you have a 5k and a 7k on the board. Or if you wanted to go for a little bit of a cheaper strategy, you could play that Kobe, but just overall a really strong card, and it's with it being 5 or less, that opens up more targets. And there also is other cards that are potential of being in play, that just them being there, or when they attack, that reduce, that you could bring a 10 down to a 5 and then play this, and you have a 7k body on the field next turn. He does get a parallel. It's Magma Fist, really good. I think it looks similar to what the Kuzan art is. Maybe they did this one and that one. Then we have Django, a 2/3 1k counter slasher. If you have full body, this character cannot be KO'd in battle. So this is an effect we've seen in the promo Luffy card, where he can't be KO'd by a specific type of character. This one just says he can't be KO'd in battle. So that means if you want to get rid of him, you have to be playing up against another black to reduce him down to 0, and then he gets KO'd, or a jet pistol, or just a Nami, or card effects. He can't be hit and destroyed, essentially. So then we have Strawberry. He's a 4/5 slasher. His effect is when attacking, if there's a character with 0, your opponent cannot activate blocker of any character with a cost of 5 or less during the battle. This is a really strong card. It doesn't have a counter, so it is dead in hand. The effect where if there's a 0 on the field where they can't activate a blocker of 5 or less, the highest cost blocker we have is 7. So what you can do is you can set it up to where a example off the top of my head is Sengoku from the Treasure Cup. He has an effect where if he has 1 Dawn on him, all the cards on your opponent's side of the field is -2. So those 7 cost blockers are now 5 cost blockers. And then if there's any searchers on the field, they are now 0. And then because there is a 0 on the field, and all the blockers are now less 5 or less, this guy can then swing uninterrupted. So if it was a 10 Don turn and you needed to go for game that turn, you have the Sengoku there, you attach the 1, and then you attach the other 9 to this guy. Or attach 5 to this guy, making him 10, attach 1 to the smoker, use his effect, there's a 0, now he's a 7, this guy's a 10, and then just, swing with him, swing with your smoker, maybe he might hang counter out of it, and then swing with this guy. Then we have a smoker character card. He's a 3/4/1k counter special attribute. His effect is this character cannot be KO'd by effects, and then when attacking, if there's a character with a cost of 0, this character gains 2,000 during this battle. So he has to be KO'd in battle, can't be popped by a Nico Robin or a Vista from the second set, or a Jet Pistol. And then whenever he attacks, he becomes a 6k. So he's a 3/6 if there's a 0, which, as we're starting to see now, there's a lot of different ways you can make a 0 cost. Specifically, the 1 cost characters, you can make them down to 0, and then just real easy, gain a little boost. Then we have Sengoku, a 2/3 2k counter wisdom. His effect, Dawn times 1. When attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. So it's not a bad effect. He only does become a 4, so you actually have to put 2 Dawn on him to swing at a normal leader. Let's just say everyone's going to play Whitebeard. You're going to need 3 Dawn on this guy to swing at lead. And then you're giving someone -2. I guess if there's another character on the field where you can swing with 4, like a Searcher, Arrested Searcher, or something like that, you can do that. But I think generally you might want to use this guy for his 2k counter in hand instead. But his effect can be useful in some situations, I believe. Then we have Sentomaro, a 2/3 1k counter slasher. He only has a trigger that's just play this card. Maybe if you're making a pure Navy deck, this guy might not be that bad because he is 3. You can be played from life, and then he only needs 2 on him to increase. Then we have Tashigi. She's a 3/5 slasher. Her effect is Dawn times 1. When attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during this turn. So this one's a little bit better than Sengoku, mainly because she's already a 5k, so 1 Dawn is going to make her a 6k, meaning she can swing it Whitebeard. And then a -3 does open up for a couple blockers, another Tashigi if the opponent's also playing black. So, and it's just, it mainly is only a little bit better because she's already a 5, and just putting 1 Dawn on her, you're already probably going to do that for 5Ks just in general, because Whitebeard is already going to be 6. She does get a parallel, which is the box topper, one of the box toppers for the set. Then we have Suru. She's a 1/0 2k counter wisdom. She has an effect on play. Give one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. So she is a 2k counter, but she does have an on play. Give one of your characters -2 cost during this turn. I feel like this is a situation where you have Strawberry on the field. You have the Smoker on the field. You have someone that's reducing cost, and there's just like one blocker on the field that maybe they might introduce like a higher cost blocker. Or if you're trying to get rid of the character kid, the 8/8 character kid on the field, and they have no other blockers because they're like, oh, I'm just gonna hand counter out of all the attacks going into the Eustace kid, and you need to reduce him just by 2 more and then play a card to pop him, you would then use her. So maybe early game, if you have 4 of her, use her as a 2k counter, but late game I can see this being way more useful than a Sengoku. Then we have Doberman, 2/4 1k counter striker, of vanilla, a 2/4 vanilla for the Navy set. Then we have Don Quixote Rosanetta. He's a 2/2 1k counter blocker. He is Don Quixote Pirates and Navy because he's a double agent. And he's just a regular, a 2/2 blocker, 1k, just what we've seen many times before. He does get a parallel, which is zoomed in. Then we have Jaguar D Saw, a 4/6 1K counter striker, giant and navy vanilla. Then we have Hina, a 5/6 1K counter special attribute. She is a blocker, and she has an on-block effect where you select up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. That selected character cannot attack during this turn. So the 6 or less restriction is, I mean, I probably wouldn't say restriction, but technically it is a restriction because 6 or less is a lot of characters in the game. It is an on-block effect, and it's only for that turn. It could potentially save you from losing the game. She also is a 6,000 cost blocker, so it would be easy to block with her. They have 2 attacks left. You block with her for the 1, and then you use the 6 or less on the other card, and then hand counter out of that 1 block, and then she stays there on the field for next turn. Then we have Full Body, 2/3 1K counter striker, navy type. His effect when attacking, if you have Django, this character gains plus 3,000 power during this battle. So he's a 2/6 if you have Django, and Django can't be KO'd in battle. He has to be taken out by card effects. It's not a bad situation there. It's just Django is so low that he can be popped by a good couple guys, and then also Full Body can be popped by a couple guys. Robin, Vista, Beppo from the Film Red deck, or the Film Red cards. So they're not inherently bad cards, but just for them having the low starting power, it does make them not as good. Then we have Belmarie. She's a 1/1 1K counter ranged navy. Her effect, activate main. You rest this character. Then you give one of your opponent's characters -1 cost. Then up to one of your leaders or characters gains 1,000 power during this turn. So she's a cost reducer and a team booster. You could make your leader smoker from 7 to 8 and swing, or you could, if you just need to, another example that I brought up before is if you just need to reduce someone by one more point, you can play her, use her ability, reduce that cost by 1 more, and then do whatever you need to do, KO it or swing over it with effects for strawberry or whatever. She does get rested, so most likely with her effect being a boost and a reduce, then she's going to be taken out because she's only 1. So having 4 of her wouldn't be a bad idea, because she also does have a 1K counter, so not dead in hand. Then we have Helmeppo. He's a 3/3 1K counter slasher. His effect is when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. Then if there's a 0 cost, this character gains +2 during the battle. So because he's a 3/5, that reduces when he attacks. And if you already have a 0 on the field, it's just a free reduce for someone else, and then he becomes the 5. He also does have a trigger where you just play this card. I feel this is an easy add to a black deck. 1, because if you draw it from life, you just put him down. Next turn swing, and you get that little boost if you're able to reduce, if you get a 0. Then we have Borsellino. He's a 4/5 1K counter special attribute. He has an effect during your opponent's turn. He gains an additional +1,000 power, and he cannot be KO'd by effects, and he is a blocker. So he's a 6,000 blocker during your opponent's turn, and then he's just a 5,000 body on the field for you during your turn. Him not being able to be KO'd by effects means you don't have to worry about Jet Pistol, because he's a blocker, so people are going to be looking at him as a blocker. But he can not be KO'd by effects, so can't be Otama down and then Jet Pistoled or popped by a Vista or Nico Robin. And then he's also a 6K body on the field, which can block and stay alive from a couple different things, and then also it's just a one less card you have to play for a counter out. Then you have a parallel version, so all the admirals do have parallels, and all the admirals are SR. Then we have Monkey D. Garp, a 2/3 2K counter striker. His effect is Dawn ×2 when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So he's a 2/5 for using his effect, and he KOs a 0 cost. So this could be, you put 3 Dawn on him, make him a 2/6. pop a 0, which you could already have him on the field, make a 10 to 0, pop that 10 cost character, which is now 0, and then swing with 6 to lead. He does get a parallel, it reminds me of like I don't know why, I think like a panda bear. I don't know why. Then we have Yamakaji. He's a 3/5 1k counter slasher, vanilla for the Navy deck, or Navy typing. So just a regular old 3/5 vanilla. Then we have our first event, which is Ice Age. It's a 1 cost activate main effect. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -5 cost during this turn, and then its trigger KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So the trigger is fairly good. It can get rid of a blocker that's on the field, or a 3/5 character, or sometimes some of these like 2/3s that we've seen in this set and some other sets. And then also its main effect is really good. It's -5. So if you just like don't want to play any other cards or use some effects where you have to like rest a character or play some character, you can do this, and then you can bring a 5 down to a 0 and then swing with what you have on board. Then we have Yasakani Sacred Jewel. It's a 1 cost event. It's an event counter. You may trash 1 card from your hand, select up to one of your characters. That selected character cannot be KO'd during this battle. So ideally you want to play that Kuzan that lets you draw a card, and then next turn you can then trash a card without a loss. Or if you trash a card like this, then you can play the Kuzan that lets you draw. Then you just select up to one of your characters. That character cannot be KO'd during this battle. You just select the character that is doing the battling right now, and then he can't be KO'd. So you could block with Hina, prevent someone else from attacking, and then play this card, and then Hina can't be KO'd during this battle. Protects her, prevents another attack, and just like it could end their turn like that. Then its trigger is KO up to one of your opponent's stages with a cost of 3 or less. So this is the first card that has the ability of getting rid of stages. It is tied to the trigger effect, so you do have to draw this from life if you do decide to run this. But getting rid of a stage late game could potentially, I don't want to say it could win you the game, but it could put it more in your favor, especially if you're going up against a Kaido and they wind up trashing the rest of their stages for the effects of, whatever cards they have, where you have to trash a card or whatever. This could, they just then lose that ability for their guaranteed, air quotes around that, Dawn ramp each turn. Then we have Meteor Volcano, a 2-cost event where its activate main, or its main effect is KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. And it has a trigger where you draw 2, trash 1, just to vary, if you get this beginning game or you're not seeing some cards that you want to see, play the trigger. But then the KO a 1 or less, if you miscalculate or just, you're only able to see a way to get a 10 down to a 1. This guy's really good in that instance. Then we have our second secret rare for the set. The first one being the Uta, which is purple. And then Kuzan. He is a 10/10 special attribute, former Navy type. His effect is during your turn, give all of your opponent's characters -5, and then has an on play where KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So the way that the staging works is that when he's put down, everyone instantly on the side of the field, everyone on your opponent's side gets -5. Then his on play kicks in and KOs 0 cost. It also does stack, to where if you have 2 of these guys in your deck, 10 Dawn turn, put him down, KO somebody, swing with lead, or, do that, swing with lead. So 10 Dawn turn, put him down, everyone's -5, KO somebody, swing with leader, goes to opponent's turn, comes back to you, put down another one of this guy. Now it does not matter who's on the field, everyone is 0. And then you're just, whatever 0 effects you have, if you have 2 strawberries on the field, just, you're going crazy. So this guy, even though he is a secret rare, and yes, he is a 10 cost, I strongly feel that he is a 4 of in a deck, just because it's crazy strong. He does get a parallel, just when he was it's kind of like a different angle, and he's got his glasses off and he's kind of frozen. So that's all of the OP02 black cards. We'll go ahead and hop over here where we'll look at all of the starter deck cards, which do release on the same day as OP02, with the first one being the Leader Sakazuki. He's a mono black 5 life, 5000 power, activate main, once per turn, you rest 3 Dawn, you trash 1 card, and then KO one of your opponent's 0 cost characters. So if this was coming out before OP02, then you would have to make this guy work. But because it's coming out on the same day as OP02 and you want to make a black deck, just play Smoker. He has an inherently better effect that gives a boost and reduces someone. And this guy, you're having to pay 3 Dawn to KO someone that's 0 when you're going to need to be using Dawn to play cards to reduce cost. So Smoker is just the better leader compared to him. Then we have Kobe, a 1/2 1k counter. On play, you trash 1 card, KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So a combo with the Kuzan that's on the field. You can draw a card with the Kuzan from the second set. Then next turn, attack with him, reduce a 4 cost or a 5 cost down to 1. Use Smoker effect, bring that 1 down to 0. Swing with the Smoker, and then play a Kobe and KO that 0. Then you have Django. It's a 1/3 1k counter vanilla slasher. I believe this guy does also work with full body. It just specifies a Django character, and this guy is Django. But if you're going to be doing the Django and full body combination, then the Django from the second set is a better choice. Then we have Smoker, a 5/7 special attribute. His effect is this character cannot be KO'd by effects, so he has to be killed in battle. And then he has a Dawn ×1. If the character was 0 cost, this character gains double attack. So he's an 8,000 double attack character. You can also kind of think of him as a pseudo blocker, because we've seen a lot of different ways, especially late game, if you get a Kuzan out in the field and it makes all the 5, or basically any card that's not 5 makes them 0, and then you have this Smoker that can be filled, that has the condition where you need a 0. You have the Strawberry, and then you have the Onigumo, whatever. Having the Kuzan on the field basically instantly fulfills those requirements. And then you can put 3 Dawn on him, make him a 10k double attack. Then we have Sengoku, a 5/6 1k counter Wisdom Navy. When his effect is when attacking, give one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So he is another good option to add to a black deck. With him being a 6k body, he's able to swing at any leader, and he can be easily pushed to 7. And then also when attacking where it's -4 opens up an option to bring many more people down to a lower cost. Where if you have a Kuzan on the field and you don't see a second Kuzan, you have him on the field and the Kuzan, swing with somebody, make that 10, now down to a 1, and then you can play a card that KOs a 1 or less. Then we have Tashigi, a 3/4 2k counter slasher. Activate main, you rest this character, give one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. So this necessarily isn't a horrible effect. I feel it's the same situation where for the Sengoku and the Tsuru, where they are both 2k counters, but their effects aren't bad. I mean, you might be able to justify putting her down another game, but I feel this is a late game because you don't have to play her and then attack with her. You can put her down and then immediately use her effect. So, more late game, I feel. Then we have Tsuru, a 2/2 1k counter blocker, a regular, blocker for the set. Then we have an Hina, 3/5 special attribute, no counter. On play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn. So a 3/5, which is decent, and then it has an on play that reduces someone by 4. Full body, 2/4 1k counter striker vanilla navy. I don't know, if you like full body, there you go. Then we have a Helmeppo, 2/3 1k counter slasher. He has an on play effect that gives up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during this turn. So not as good as the Helmeppo from the second set, mainly because he doesn't have a trigger that lets you play him, but he's also not a bad card with the -3 on play, and he does have a counter. So maybe have this guy over Hina, but Hina is a 4 and she does have 5,000 power compared to him only having 3, and he's a 3 or less, but the counter does make him slightly a little bit better. Then we have Momonga, 4/6 1k counter slasher, vanilla, just a 4/6. Then we have Monkey D. Garp, a 5/6 striker navy. Activate main, you trash one card and rest this character. Then you KO one of your characters with 4 or less. I wouldn't see a reason to use this guy's main effect until late game, because you can use this the turn that he's played, but then you're resting a 6k body on the field, and that just feels kind of wasteful in a way. We have T-Bone, a 3/5 1k slasher vanilla. Then we're going to get into the events. We have Shockwave, a 2k counter event where it's up to one of your leaders or characters gains +4 power during this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less, and it has a trigger KO up to one of your opponents with a cost of 4 or less. This is a great card. First off, it is a +4 for 2 cost, it's a +4. Then it also lets you KO a character that's 3 or less. So you get to protect yourself from an attack and then take out another attack that could be coming your way. Then we have Great Eruption, a 1 cost main event where it's you draw 1 card, then give one of your opponent's cost -2 during this turn, and its trigger, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and trashes it. So not a bad trigger, but I feel like the main effect is a lot better. One, because if you're playing, there are the couple cards like the Garb that we looked at from this set, or from this starter deck, and then a couple other cards where you trash 1 card and then use the effect. This is just, a quick way. One cost, you draw 1, and then you can also reduce someone by 2. So the main effect outweighs the trigger effect, but the trigger effect could come in handy late game. Then we have Whiteout, a 1 cost counter event where it's up to one of your leaders or characters gains +2000 power during this turn, which is pretty basic. But then the trigger effect, where it's you draw 1 card and none of your characters can be KO'd during this turn, meaning if they swing with their leader for 1 turn, or they swing with the leader, and you draw this last life, there's no point in them swinging anymore because none of your characters can be KO'd. So they just swing at leaders, and then you can just block whatever attacks you won't need to be. Then we have the stage card, Navy HQ. It's a 1 cost stage where it's on play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 during the turn. Then activate main, you rest this stage, and then if your leader is a Navy, which the only 2 leaders we have for black are Navy, you can then give someone else -1 during the turn. So it is a -2 for the turn that he's played, but then every turn after it's just a -1. So that is all of the black cards that are set to come out on the 10th of March. The OP02 and starter deck are the ones that we looked at. Let me know down below which of the 3 Admiral alt arts are your favorite. I'm a fan of the Kuzan, just because the Ice Age is really cool. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.